Elvenhome, and to this week's edition, which concentrates on getting the roof on the engine shed and also answers a pressing question that was raised with me after my last video. But first of all, let me take you back to where I had completed the work to create the first roof panel for the engine shed and talk you through how that panel was put together. At the end of the last video, I mentioned that it was time to actually get on and build the roof, and I've been showing you a bit of one of the parts of the roof for quite a while. And so what I thought I would do is complete one of the inner roof pieces that will go on either of one of these two, and then show you what it looks like with it all put together and show you the bits that go into making up the roof piece. So that's what I'm going to do. To get everything in, I've got the camera quite a way back, so it's going to be fun reaching forward and making sure I keep everything in focus, but let's see how we go. So first of all, this is the completed roof section, and this section is intended to go inside here, so that will sit there eventually once it's stuck on, and this will begin to give you an idea of what the roof's going to look like. Because there will be a similar piece to this on the inside here, and we'll come back to the outer sections once I've completed this. You've seen before the eight of these skylights. These are actually intended for a Northlight engine shed, but I've repurposed them. All you saw them before was as the 8 put together in some 1.5mm L strip. If I bring this here, get it to come into it, you'll see that's L. What I've then done, if I turn it over, is to cut two lengths of the right overall length for the roof of 1mm plastic card or evergreen styrene card, which are 11mm wide, and here you can see for the next one that I've cut those two already. That then needs two little pieces to be put in here and here, and then using the foil that I bought, again cutting two strips, well enough as much as I needed, 11mm wide, and then moving to imperial measures and cutting lengths that are half an inch, and you'll see them here. These are half an inch long, and then using that to form along the edges there. I've used double-sided tape to stick those on, and as is always the way, I thought, oh, that my double-sided tape is just the right width, and it's not. It's 12mm wide. Which gave me a little bit of a problem with the bit that was hanging over, so I've bought some more double-sided tape, which is only 9mm wide, so that won't overhang, and that has given me my roof piece. So what I've got to do now, as you can see, the other pieces are already here waiting for me to get to work on, and my light has just gone out, plunged into darkness. One thing I will say is that the Olfa plastic cutter that I mentioned to you in the last video has been really very good indeed. I'm very pleased with it. It works really well at cutting a nice groove which you can then snap, and that's how I've been able to cut these two pieces, both 11mm wide. You can see they've got really good straight edges on them. Don't have a bevel that needs cleaning off, or a very slight one which you use the back of the blade to clean off if you've got anything. So I'll put a link to that in the description below. It's not one that gives me an affiliate link, that's the word I'm thinking. It's just where I bought it from. You may well find you can buy it cheaper somewhere else, but it will at least show you the thing that it is that I went and bought. So I'm going to get on and do, oh yes, just one other thing, because I nearly forgot. At one end, at the back end, if I bring this in, you'll see I've put one piece of 1mm by 2mm strip styrene, and that provides me with a stop that will go against the back of the the roof piece there so that this is exactly the length that I want it to be at the other end. And that will make sure that all my roof pieces, when I've finished, will all finish at the same point, because I've got enough card to cut all these strips from the same length of card, which is rather good. So I'll get on and complete the second panel and probably fit them as well, I think, because I want to get this in. It's possible, if I can do it, I've got some U channel which I might be able to put down in the middle here to be a drain, but I'll see how it goes, because it's possible that these two roof sections will actually more or less touch once they get in, but I won't know till I've built this one. So I'll get on and build that one, and then I'll come back once I've got those completed. As you can see, the first two roof panels have now been put onto the model of the engine shed, and I'm really pleased with the way they've come out. They fitted just, so my measuring was very accurate, without leaving any gap, really much of a gap here, so I've not had to put a drain in the centre. And this centre part, in any event, there's going to be a walkway going on the whole length of that section, which will cover over that bit. But it's giving me the impression that I wanted, if I turn it up so you can see it that way, of the individual panels, a bit like I showed on the model of the Graham Farish. I'm trying to think what they're called now. Scenecraft. Is it Scenecraft? No, whatever it is. Engine shed that's just, or Motive Power Depot, I think theirs is, that's just about to come out. So I'm quite pleased with that. And there is some touching up is needed here in painting. Don't worry, that's going to be done when the whole model is finished, as is weathering, because at the moment this just has paint on it. I've not tried to do any weathering. I want to do that for the model as a whole, so that the whole thing gets done together. I think if I did it as separate panels, the danger would be that it wouldn't, when you put it all together, it would just look odd, because you may have weathered it rather more or rather less each time you went to it. So better to do it as a single thing. So all that remains is to get on and build the other two panels, which will go on the outside. The tops are going to be just a plain roof going across the top here, and the gap here is, I'm pleased to say, so narrow that I'm going to leave it as like an open vent so that any smoke and stuff can just get out. But with the roofs coming over the top, which I'm going to bring probably 1 millimeter over the edge so it covers this one, will mean we don't need to put any windows or anything at that level, and it will just provide a natural smoke vent. You may recall several videos ago I showed you the bits that went to make up the roof panels that are going along here. And I thought, well, there's only one thing to do now, is to get on and see if those bits, when you stick them together, turn into a decent roof panel. And I'm pleased to tell you that they do, because here is the other roof panel. Now this is made up of the different type of window, and then you may see it better if I bring it up closer. Just 2 long strips of cut from styrene card. One I think is 6 millimeters and one is 8, and the 8 goes on the bottom to give a decent overhang. Then cut 2 pieces at either end, one there, and then these individual pieces are again stuck onto a piece of strip styrene L-shaped plastic, and that has come together. And when I put it, if I put it here and bring the model sideways, when it sits in there, you'll see that each one of them lines up to sit between the trusses. So what I've got to do now is cut the bits out to create the roof panel for the other side. And then also obviously on this one I need to put the tin foil on and paint that up, and that will then give me the main parts of the roof done. And then these sections, as I say, are just going to be I think I'm just going to keep it pretty plain, and I'm not sure yet whether I'll put roof tiles on those or whether I will try and do the foil. I think a lot depends how much foil I've got left when I've finished doing these 2 panels. Very interesting that just putting this on has tightened the model up amazingly. I mean, these weren't very wobbly before, these roof trusses, but you can just feel how more solid the model is because these 2 roof panels have gone on. So I think we are coming towards the home straight. Once the roof is completed, there is some painting and touching up and weathering, but I need to build a wall that's going to come around here to protect the front. There are the stairs with the safety gantry, safety net cage to go up on either side to give access, the walkway that's going to go across there, and that is about it, I think. Unless anything else occurs to me as I'm building, because the great thing about scratch building is if you suddenly think I would quite like it to have this, you can actually do that. So we'll see how we get to by the time you come back at the next video. But that, I think, is enough about the engine shed for this video, so let's move on to the next section. In the last video I talked about the figures that I've been painting and putting them onto the layout, and a couple of people asked in response to that, what did I use to fix the figures to the layout? If I zoom you in a little bit here, you'll see those 2 figures standing there quite happily. You know, some people said, well, do I glue them? And the answer is no, I don't. I use a product from Deluxe Materials, no great surprise there, called Tacky Wax, which is, as it suggests, a very sticky, not that you can probably see, but it is sticky. A little bit of that on the feet, and that will hold them quite happily because there's not much weight in these things. The dear lady that's been walking across the zebra crossing for the last 2 years has been standing there affixed by Tacky Wax for a good 2 years, I think. So that's the product that I use. A couple of people were somewhat dismayed because they've got quite large layouts at how many figures I'd put on this layout and how they'd pretty much almost disappeared, which is not quite true. You can see them much more in the flesh than I think the camera can pick them up. And I think there was a couple of things that I thought, and it's easier to say this now rather than to respond in greater detail than I did in the emails. I think one of the things is that you can do cameo scenes with figures that draw the eye. So I don't think you necessarily need to populate it as much as you would do in real life. And that probably will be enough so that the eye sees some people, because just having some people on here has made Bagshot Row live. There's one, what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 figures along Bagshot Row, and it looks like a real place now. So I don't think you need to be too worried that you're going to have to put hundreds of thousands of people, well, not hundreds of thousands, thousands of figures on a very big layout. The other thing is that I went for the painting the figures that I did because my figures are all fairly close to where you would naturally be standing to watch the trains go by. And so I wanted sufficient detail on them, but I also didn't like the colours that were on a lot of the ones that come from China, and you can buy 100 figures for not very much money. Now, unfortunately, they've not arrived in time for this video, so I'll show them in the next. I did see this week a pack of 100 figures in not so garish colours, which looked okay to me, so I've ordered them. And these would be ones that I would put in further parts of the layout, or where they wouldn't be so easily seen, but where you would still want people to be visible. So we'll see what they're like when they come. They're 1 to 150 scale, which is bigger than the figures that I've got here. But I honestly don't believe you'd be able to tell easily between a figure that is 1 to 150 scale or 1 to 160. At most it's going to be a millimetre in height, and I doubt it would be that much. So that's something to look forward to in the next video, because I'll have a look at whether they're any good, these figures. They were only about £5 a packet, and if they are any good, for John at Exhaven and Chris at Bognor Regis in particular, it may save you an awful lot of painting. So that's pretty much it for this week's edition of Elvenhome. The engine shed, as you can see, is coming on. I've got the remainder of the roof to build, so the whole of the roof will be on by the time you get back. And as I promised, when I come to build the ladder with the cage around it, I will video myself doing the soldering of the cage onto the ladder, because it's a great little kit from PD Models, but it does require soldering. I don't think you would get the same results with glue somehow. But if you've liked the video, well, please do give it a thumbs up, and of course if you haven't subscribed, well, please do subscribe, because it'd be great to have you along. And of course, if you have any comments for me, please feel free to leave the comments. I always enjoy getting the comments and try my best to respond always to them as quickly as I can. But until I see you again in about a fortnight's time, that's bye-bye from me. Bye-bye.